kind of back and forth a little bit. Let's give it another minute or two just to let some people come through. We'll do introductions. Students, if you're on the line and you have camera capability, I'd like for you to be able to turn your camera on, but keep your mics muted. That'd be great, just so we can see everybody's joining us today. I feel like that makes it a little bit more personal, so it's not just us talking to you the whole time. And I'll give it one more minute, and then Diamond, I'll let you all go through and start some introductions here.
Okay.
And we're gonna have a smaller group. I do know that just based on responses, but I think that's okay because that also makes it a little bit more personable for everybody. Students, I think today what we'll do is instead of you all asking questions through the chat, there's not too many people, so I think you'll be able to do that with your microphone. And we're gonna try that because we haven't done that quite yet.
Okay, sounds good. And then I did put a Q&A slide at the end, but feel free, of course, to just ask whenever to just stop us because we can do the thing. We can talk all day. So
that's what we like to hear. All right. So I'm gonna help this other student get in, but real quick, I'll give you all a little bit of an introduction. So you all know me, Brady, running the Scrubs Online program. I'm joined here today with Diamond. We also have Aaron, Christy, and then Naomi. Yeah, I missed you. Oh, there you are. You're in a different part of my screen than you were. Okay, so I will turn it over to Diamond and she can give introductions, and if everybody else with CODAD would also like to give a little bit of an introduction and maybe what year you are at St. Catherine's, maybe how you got involved with the CODAD program, tell the students maybe what CODAD is and what the abbreviation stands for and all that good stuff. So Diamond, yeah. I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Of course, so we have that kind of like tailored into our presentation, but I can of course talk about COTAD before we get started about who we are and what we do. So COTAD is the Coalition of Occupational Therapy Advocates for Diversity. So we are a student chapter that is based through our program at St. Cade's. So we are all in the occupational therapy program. And so COTAD has student chapters throughout the country. And so in that chapter, their focus is trying to increase diversity within the student population, within our field, and also just to increase education around OT and what it is as a career, as a potential career for you all, because a lot of times people don't know what it is, or they don't even know it's an option as a health career. So in that chapter, our focus is just to increase awareness of OT and the services and the populations that we serve. So I am the president of the St. Catherine's chapter, the COTAD chapter. And so these are the girls with me today. They're the members of that chapter. And this is our first presentation with Scrub Camps. And we're really excited. I'm really excited to be here and to see all your faces and connect with you all. So this is just, we're really excited for this opportunity and just to get some feedback from you all too. If that's okay with you, Brady, I'm gonna start with the presentation because we talk about who we are separately in the presentation. So I wonder if that's okay. If I can
yeah, absolutely. If that's what you had put together, that's perfect.
Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen here. Oh, wait, wrong thing. Also, I'm not that tech savvy. I'm sorry, guys. Like, I've been working on it. I'm in grad school. I still don't have it together. I don't have it together at all. So there we go. All right, so today we're going to do a presentation on occupational therapy. And actually, let me stop sharing. I just want to make sure I shared my audio too, because we have some video clips in here. So let me just go back and make sure and double check. There we go. So we're going to be talking mainly about occupational therapy today, but we do have some other rehabilitation therapies mentioned throughout this slide too. So we do touch base on speech therapy and physical therapy that you mentioned, Brady. But just to say, like, we have all of our information. A lot of our background is based on OT, so that's kind of where our expertises, but we are talking about other areas and rehab therapies. So let me just, there we go. So who are we? So again, so I'm Diamond Hill. So I have my BA in psychology. I'm a registered behavior technician. So that's just a credential that I have as a separate job outside of OT. That's just what I do now. I'm a behavior therapist. And then I'm also a second year occupational therapy student in the doctoral program at St. Kate's. And so we all put our emails here too. And then we can go back to the slide at the end if you all want to write it down, or if you want to keep in touch with us. So that is who I am. Again, I'm the president of COTAD. And yeah.
And my name is Erin Bagayski. I am also a second year doctoral student at St. Kate's in OT. I got my bachelor's in 2018 in biomedical sciences, but I'm really, really excited to take this next step. And so I can't wait to share with you guys a little bit more about OT too.
Hi everyone, I'm Naomi Tietzel, and I have my Bachelor's of Science in Applied Sciences and Psychology, which is a little bit different than regular psychology because it's kind of pre-med. So I have kines and kind of all those extra stuff that goes along with pre-med. And I am a second year MAOT student, so that means I'm going for my master's, not my doctorate.
Hi, I'm Christy Sink. I also have my bachelor's degree in psychology, and I also went back and got my associate's degree, which is kind of like a 2-year degree in occupational therapy assisting. So I've been working in the OT field for about 5-6 years now, and I'm so excited to be back in school. And I am also a second year doctoral student at St. Kate's. So talking a little bit about what OT is, we as therapists address everything having to do, that's okay, everything having to do with the person, everything that a person does during their day. So this is actually a great slide to be on because we work with all of these different areas with people. One important distinction, I don't know how many of you are familiar with physical therapy, but we work closely with physical therapists, but we do a lot more. Our scope is a lot more broad than PT. So when a physical therapist would write a goal, they might write a goal of, say, they want their patient to be able to walk 200 feet by the time they go home. Whereas with OT, we would say, we want our resident to be able to walk safely from their room to the dining room and back using their walker or whatever. So we are a lot more inclusive when it comes to language and working as far as interventions with the actual tasks that people do every day.
So yeah, so this is the third slide. This was not supposed to be the slide Christy was talking on. But so a lot of times when I tell people what occupational therapy is, I like to talk about what occupations are. Because a lot of times people hear occupation, they're like job, work. So just to kind of, define what occupations are. So they're things that we do that bring meaning to our lives, meaning and value to our everyday lives. So in occupational therapy world, there's these different areas of occupations in which we focus on when it comes to our clients. So we have activities of daily living, which is like things like bathing, grooming, oral, nail care, hair care. So these are kind of like the basic things that make us independent human beings in the world, and kind of what our culture and society has, come to be our norms as of taking care of ourselves. So those are kind of the basics. And then we have instrumental activities of daily living. So this is cooking, driving, medication management. So again, these are all occupations that we are focusing on. Sleep and rest is occupation, work, education, play. That's a big thing in kids. We focus on play. How can they play by themselves? How can they play safely? Leisure, that can include watching TV, whatever brings meaning to your life and value. And then we also have social participation. Turn your camera on, Erin, your audio. There you go.
Oh, sorry, heavy. One kind of applied example of an occupation that goes beyond just grooming and hygiene, which is a very, very important part of OT. We also do leisure activities. So if there's someone or actually I have like a real example. This is my uncle. This just happened earlier this spring. He had tendinitis in his elbow. And so he received both PT and OT for that tendonitis. And his goals in PT were to get a certain amount of range of motion without pain. So he wanted to move the joint further and further week after week without pain and to increase that number. But his OT goal was a little bit of a pivot. It was just applied. And so he was getting really nervous about fishing season coming upon us. And he wasn't going to be able to fish if his elbow was all whacked. So his OT goal was to be able to fish for an hour span at a time without pain in his elbow. And he was really, really grateful. He's still working on it now. He still has a little bit of pain, but I thought it was really interesting that that was his OT goal, was to be able to get back and to do an activity that was really important to him.
Good example.
And I think a really, really important part of OT is diversity. There is no diversity, or there is no OT without diversity. It's a crucial part of what we do. It's a crucial part of our practice and of our experience as OTs, because like we mentioned, we work with all different types of people, every single age of person you can work with. And even just the field of medicine in general is just really benefits from people who have different viewpoints, who have different life experiences. Our clients feel so much better when they have someone treating them who knows something about their background and has experience with it. So everybody in the profession benefits from a more diverse workforce. And that's a huge part of what COTAD does. And that's a huge part of why the four of us are really, really passionate about making our profession, occupational therapy, look more like the world around us.
And just to go off of what you were saying too, Christy, it's so important. We're working with all these different people. And so we need people like you, the kids that are involved in this program, who are interested in these health careers, because it's so important that representation matters, which is why I'm so passionate about it, is because just having more people that look like you in this field is so important to our clients, to their treatment, to their experience. And unfortunately, our career field is predominantly white, but like again, we're passionate about changing that. And we see that change in you all, and we just hope that seeing this presentation, you just think about that. And also, even if you don't want to do OT, diversity again is so important. And so just having that for our clients and what it looks like for the future of medicine is just everything. But I'm going to stop because I can keep going. So we just have some videos here that we wanted to show you all, like just some clips. I'm just going to press play.
My name is Michael Valerie, and I'm an occupational therapist. My job is to make sure that what you could do before you came to the hospital, that you can still do when you go home. Can you get dressed? Can you get to the bathroom? Can you cook breakfast for yourself? We got a kitchen, a whole kitchen, yeah. When you go home, you got to be able to do things that you did at home. So I want to see Miss Johnson. Can she open the door and grab the Diet Coke? Most older people, they can't go to the gym and lift 55-pound weights to strengthen themselves. But what they can do is use a stretchy band and get just enough resistance so that their arms can become stronger slowly. You love to see people say, I can't do that, I can't move, I can't get dressed. And then 5 minutes later, they're sitting there like, I didn't know I could do that. It always feels good to help someone. And for those of you who don't know what you want to do, man, the healthcare field is broad. I mean, from therapists, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, respiratory therapy. It's just an awesome field. It's an awesome job, man. If I hit the lottery, I would still come to work.
All right, and then we have one more too, just the difference between OT and PT. I really like that video. I think Michael's cool, so. Oh, wait. 1 second. I want to go back and play the other video, so I'm gonna go play it.
guys, it's Crystal and welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to make this video not only to explain the differences between OT and PT, but also to maybe give some clarity to someone who's on the fence between both professions and doesn't know which one they want to do. So let's get on with the video. PT versus OT. Now PT is a more widely known profession. Like mostly everyone knows what PT is, but not a lot of people know what OT is. And if you don't know what OT is, I made a whole video detailing what occupational therapy is, so you can check that out. But because PTs and OTs are often seen working together, and PT is the more widely known profession, OTs a lot of the time get mistaken for PTs. You don't really see it the other way around. You don't really see PTs getting mistaken for OTs, but OTs, we feel some type of way when we get mistaken. And in no way is this a video like bashing PTs. I actually love PT. I think it's a great profession on its own, but I want the world to give OT some love too. So first let's start with the similarities between the two, because I feel like in the similarities is where a lot of the confusion happens, and they do have a lot in common. Like PT and OTs are like cousins. They're both rehab professions. They both work in the same settings. They're both focused on a person achieving independence. They both educate people on how to prevent injuries. Both are filled with awesome people, and you can often see the two working hand in hand. Sometimes a PT and an OT might be seeing the same patient on the same day, and they could say, hey, let's see them together, because they're probably working on similar goals. But though there are similarities, there are a lot of differences, and that's what I want to talk about today. So what's the difference between OT and PT? There was this post that I saw on Instagram that actually described it really well, and it was like, PT helps you get from point A to point B. OT helps you do things at point A and at point B. So let's talk about PT first. I'm not a PT, so I'm just gonna go off of what I found on the internet while I was doing some research. So if you're a PT out there and you think you have a better explanation than what I'm gonna give, or you think that I missed something, then comment down below and let us know. When PT's treating a patient, they're using a biomechanical approach. So they're more focused on treating the injury and getting that person to that point B. Their main focus is gross motor function, so larger movements like walking, and they focus on strengthening. So essentially PT's primary goal is to get the person back in motion. Now OT uses a more biopsychosocial approach. So OT is not just looking at the injury. OT is more focused on improving the patient's ability to perform activities, whether that's getting dressed, brushing your teeth, taking a bath, all those basic ADLs and IADLs, such as being able to prepare a meal, driving, getting back to the hobby that the person's interested in, improving the ability to do whatever is important to that person. So OT focuses on more fine motor movements, because most of the ADLs that we do are done with our fine motor skills. So we're more focused on the patient's fine motor skills and cognitive skills to help them perform the activities that are meaningful to them. So we don't just look at why a person's participation was impacted, we don't just look at the injury, but also the patient's roles, their environment, their values. And if we can't adapt the individual to the environment, then we adapt the environment to the individual. So for example, if we're working with someone who has shoulder problems and they're not able to reach the top shelf anymore because they can't lift their arms above 90 degrees, we can either do therapeutic activities with them that will increase their range of motion, or we adapt their environment. So instead of having the cups on the top shelf, then just rearranging them to a lower shelf so that they could reach. So then what are the differences in education? So for PT, officially you need a doctorate, and I think most PT programs are around 3 years. But for OT, you have a choice. You can either complete a master's in OT or a doctorate in OT. So depending on what you choose, your program could be 2 years or it could be 3 years. Although there is some talk going on of trying to make OT an entry-level doctorate all around, so like that you can't do your master's anymore, like you have to go get your doctorate to be an OT. But as of now, a master's is still accepted, so go get your master's while you can. So now let's talk salary. What is the salary difference between PT and OT? Because I know that's a big factor when it comes to choosing a profession. Even though if you want to be a PT or OT for the money, then you gotta find another job, because the work that you do as an OT and PT, I think, is very demanding physically and emotionally. So if you're not in it for the right reasons, if you're not in it because you genuinely care and you genuinely want to help people, then you're not gonna be a happy camper. You're gonna be a sour Sally, going into work every day, being miserable, and making others around you miserable. But the salary, as of 2019, the average salary for an OT is $83,200, and that's annually. And the average salary for PT is $86,400. Just kidding. $86,850. Took away a couple $100 there. So on average, there is a difference, but I personally don't think it's that much of a difference. Like if you're on the fence between PT and OT, like I wouldn't make salary the determinant because I don't think the difference is that big. So I hope this video was helpful and cleared some things up. And if you're someone who's on the fence between PT and OT, I hope that this video helped or at least gave you a little more information. In the end, they're both great professions and they often work hand in hand, so you can't go wrong with either one. But I'm a little biased to OT. OT's the best. Well, who said that? All right, that's it for today, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I'm curious, leave a comment down below if you were on the fence between which.
So yes, I love both of their energy towards both fields. I love that. So here we go.
So yeah, as you have probably gathered, OT is very holistic. So we can kind of work in any setting. And this is true of a lot of rehab therapists in general. So PT and SLPs, these are, and others careers, they're also in these settings. So we can work in schools with kiddos, hospitals with TBIs or strokes or ICU. We can work in nursing homes. We can work in specific rehab clinics. So you might have seen like PT clinics, and PT clinics often have like OT and other rehab specialists. You can work in mental health. And then there's a ton of specialized areas that we could go on forever. There's the NICU working with babies. You can work in hand therapy. You can work on driving or TBIs. Kind of the list is endless, and it's a really growing field in general, so more specialized areas are coming up all the time because everyone needs some advocacy and empowerment on how to be independent sometimes. So we have a little video to kind of explain some more specifics about settings if you want to play that, Diamond.
Yeah.
Occupational therapists enable people to do what they want and need to do in their daily lives. Occupational therapists, or OTs, work in a variety of settings with people of all ages and abilities. But people often ask what that means. Here are a few stories to help explain.
I'm an OT at a children's hospital. Baby Carly was born earlier than expected. She needed a lot of needle pokes for tests, and she had trouble feeding.
I'm Carly's mom. The OT coached me on how to hold Carly so that the injections are less painful for her. She also designed a special bottle for Carly to drink from so that she can eat safely and get the nutrition she needs to grow.
I'm an occupational therapist who works in schools. Matilda was having a hard time sitting still and listening to her teacher.
The OT worked with my teacher to make a schedule out of pictures for me. He gave me a purple bouncy chair to let me work off all my extra energy. Now I know what to expect on my school day, and I can pay better attention in class.
I'm an OT working in the community. Jacob has a mental illness and was having a hard time finding and keeping a job that he liked.
The OT and I talked about the challenges I was facing. He showed me ways I could manage my time and stress levels and coached me on how to focus on my strengths. We worked together on job applications until I found something that's the perfect fit for me.
I'm an occupational therapist who works in spinal cord injury rehabilitation. Today, I'm seeing John.
After my injury, I didn't think I'd be able to access my community. The OT helped me choose the perfect wheelchair, adapted my car, and taught me skills to get where I need to go. Now I can meet up with my buddies wherever they are.
I'm an OT working in a general hospital. After her injury, Pearl wasn't yet able to take care of herself, so she could go home.
The occupational therapist taught me about ways to be safe at home and still have a healthy and active life. She also provided me with equipment so that I could bathe and put on my fanciest clothing on my own.
I'm an OT working in a long-term care facility. Walter wants to take a special someone out for dinner, but first he has to plan the date.
Even though my memory isn't what it used to be in the old days, the OT showed me how to keep a calendar to help me remember. Now I don't miss meals or activities, and I think I'm going to call that special someone next week.
Occupational therapy.
Skills for the job of living.
All right. So it's just some settings that we work in. So some careers in just rehabilitation in general that you all can consider if you don't really see OT in your future, but if you do, there's just other areas of rehab that aren't really talked about a lot either. So of course we have OTs, then we have certified occupational therapy assistants, and then again, we have the speech languages of pathologists. So we have the physical therapists, physical therapy assistants, so you can be a rehab aide, and then we also have down at the bottom prosthesis. So you can specialize in making prosthetics for people, if that is something that you're interested in. Oh, sorry. And then so these are just some short clips again about what PT is, and then also about what speech pathology is. And so again, these people are very enthusiastic, and yes, they have great energy. So
let's answer that question. What is physical therapy? Physical therapy is a type of conservative care treatment. That means no medicine is involved. Well, there's a little bit of medicine, but I'm not going to get into that detail. But basically, no medicine is involved with physical therapy. So any type of drugs, prescription, all of that, nah. It's a type of care that utilizes only exercise, only certain types of modalities like ultrasound, maybe some traction, some things that you can physically do. It also helps improve range of motion and get you more flexible, right? All of this treatments and care is to help treat diseases, injuries, and some types of deformities in order to decrease pain, restore function, and improve quality of life. And I say this in these three specific orders because that is the approach that physical therapy takes when treating someone. So number one, you decrease the pain. Number two, you restore the function. You have to decrease pain to restore function. And once your function is restored, then you can improve quality of life. So
there. And there's another short clip here too about what speech language pathology is.
I want to start off this video by making a serious disclaimer that informs you what a speech pathologist is and what a speech pathologist is not. A speech pathologist is not the person in the school who has the closet of an office who pull out the kids to go color and teach them how to say their R sounds. That is not the depth of this career. A speech language pathologist is a person who assesses, diagnoses, treats, and helps prevent any disorders relating to speech, fluency, swallowing, voice, cognitive communication, and language. Okay? Some populations that speech pathologists work with, everybody. We cover it all. We cover people of all ages, all cultures, everything. Like, speech pathologists literally work with everybody because communication is everywhere. So if that's our thing, then why wouldn't we be there too? We work with people who have intellectual disabilities. We work with people who have articulation problems. Articulation is just simply like being able to say your words and your speech sounds the right way. Like people who have maybe a lisp or children who are developing their speech and just, not necessarily saying the right sounds at the moment. We can work with people who have dementia. We can work with anybody on the autism spectrum with aphasia, stroke, dysphagia, which is difficulty swallowing. We are everything and more. Like, I'm trying to put y'all on the map with speech pathology, like, for real. This major is thebomb.com. The best things about this field is that you have so many different options and opportunities to do different things and still be within your scope of practice. So I can literally graduate, go out into the schools and work with elementary school kids. And then I can leave there, and as long as I'm competent, go work in a skilled nursing facility with geriatric population. Get to work with these people and change lives. Like, I'm not even a certified SLP yet. I'm not even an SLP yet. Like, I don't even have my master's yet. It's coming though in May, okay? But I don't have it yet, but I've already worked with people and seen how fulfilling and seen like the changes that I've made in kids' lives and I just can't. Like, I can't even take talking about it for too long because.
So yes. So again, just reiterating, rehab professions. Oh my goodness, you can work with so many different people in so many different professions. And of course, I'm super biased, OT forever, but come to rehab services, just rehab services in general. Like, it's a lot out there, a lot to consider.
So for this one, this kind of just reiterates what we've been talking about. It's a little bit of a visual too. The visual is really pretty specific to the nursing home, which is what I have the most personal experience working in. So I made a little bit of a graph just to kind of get a feel for how all three of the OT, PT, and speech work together and where we overlap, because we certainly do. We overlap with both PT and speech in some of the things that we do with people, but we all have our unique and individual expertise areas. And then in other places, like they mentioned in the school, we work with the teachers, we work with the families, we work with administrators. In mental health, we work with the psychologists and the psychiatrists. We work with the physicians. Really anyone who has anything to do with the person's care, we work with them.
And just to go off of what you're saying too, Christy, teamwork, it's a big thing in rehab services. We're working in teams all the time. So if you feel like you thrive in team settings, because a lot of times you got to talk to the PT and be like, okay, well, how was your session and how was their mood today? Okay, well, do you think it'd be okay if I worked with dressing, or should I wait till tomorrow? So it's just a lot of teamwork, and that's a lot of focus. That's where a lot of the focus is in rehab services. So again, it's just an awesome field to be in. So all right.
Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the money and the salary that occupational therapy practitioners can make. So when we refer to occupational therapy practitioners, we're talking about anyone that works in OT. So that would be an OT assistant or an occupational therapist. So I'm going to give you some figures on both of those because there's pretty significant differences in the education required for both of those jobs. And so it's helpful to be able to weigh the pros and cons that way. So we'll start with the OTA. So occupational therapy assistants make an average of $54,276,000 a year. And they start even at $39,000 in their first year working, which is pretty good. So the schooling required for an OTA is an associate's degree. So that's a 1.5 to 2 year program after high school, and you'll be able to practice as an assistant. So the big difference, we kind of brushed on it a little bit, but we haven't gone super in depth. The occupational therapy assistants are going to work in direct care, just like OTs. They're going to be doing the exercises with clients. They're going to be supporting them throughout their attainment of their goals or working towards their goals that we set. But they're not actually going to be setting the goals. The OT is going to be the one that evaluates and talks with the client about what their goals are for treatment. And then the OTAs are going to be there to step in and support their attainment of those goals in the different rehab therapy activities throughout treatment. So then if we go over to the OT side, one difference that I just mentioned was the doing an evaluation and documenting the evaluation so that we know what we're working on throughout therapy with that client. The average salary for OTs is a little different than that video that we saw up top. There's a couple figures you can get online, but I found $76,448, and new grads can start making $59,000. So there's a pretty big jump there that you can see. There's some opportunity for salary growth, obviously, in your as you continue to get experience in the field. So for schooling, it requires pretty significantly more schooling to become a full occupational therapist. So it'll be about 7 years total, 6 to 7 years total after high school to be able to become a full practicing OT. So that requires a bachelor's degree in any number of different fields, and then also a master's degree or a doctorate degree in occupational therapy. A third option there, if you don't want to do the bachelor's degree to become a therapist, you can also do, can you click it to the next one with my transitions diamond? Ooh, there we go. If you're an OTA and you want to become an OT, there are these things called OTA bridge programs, or OTA to OT bridge programs. That is what they're called. So you can go back for an additional 4 years after your associates to be able to get your master's in occupational therapy. The biggest kicker to this one is that there's not a ton of OTA to OT bridge programs. So there's only the closest one to the Twin Cities area to Minnesota would be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So that's like about 5 hours from the Twin Cities, a little further if you're in any other area in Minnesota. So there's other places throughout the country. If you wanted to travel a little bit for those programs, you could, but it's a little bit less accessible to us in the Midwest. Oh yeah, there it is. How many years is that, Diamond? Click it. Hey, there you go.
And just to kind of go off what you were saying too, Erin, because I know a lot of people do the thing of like, if you want to be an OTA, you know, you're going to be having that direct care. And if you want to be an OT, you're going to be doing documentation. Okay, first off, nobody likes documentation. I'm just going to tell y'all right now. Nobody.
And both of them do documentation. Both of them do documentation.
Yes, everybody does documentation to a certain extent. But I kind of like to think of it like, if you want to be OT, do you kind of want to be in the driver's seat of that person's care and intervention? Do you want to be that person creating that plan or having more of a say-so of what you think they should be doing or what would be helping them to be more independent? And again, OTAs have a say too. They work together and still, like, again, valuing that, like, that collaboration. We're working together as a team. And so the OTA might tell you, yeah, this intervention is not working. So can we work together? Or this is what I observed when I was working with this person. Can we work on this together? Can we create a new goal? So again, it's all about that collaboration and that teamwork. It's just OTs kind of have a more of a, like a say in how their goals are going to be written or what the intervention is going to look like. And then OTAs are just more so working directly with the client. You are going to be working directly with the client as an OT. You're still going to be with them, touching them, talking to them. But again, just want to just mention that part.
Okay, so things to consider if OT is sounding really good to you, which hopefully with all this information, hopefully it is. And I will add a caveat to this before I even start. OTs come to the profession from everywhere. I have had coworkers who started out with a business degree. I have had coworkers who started out in IT. Like, literally, there are OTs from every single background, which is like so phenomenal as well, because everyone brings their unique skill set to the profession, and it just makes the whole experience the best thing ever. But more specifically, I kind of put down a couple of things to think about, just to kind of evaluate what maybe your skills are, be it like your specific knowledge or kind of what you feel like you're just naturally good at, and kind of think about, okay, this is how I could apply this to OT. So the first one is caretaking. So if you feel like you just like taking care of babies just brings you life, there are those people who are like, I just want to be around babies all the time, or toddlers. OT is phenomenal for that, because not only can you go and work with pediatrics, you can help them to be able to do better with their play, with getting around, you know, you can see them develop, which is so cool. Creating solutions to everyday problems. If you're an overanalyzer, like I think the four of us really are, if you find yourself really, really like thinking through problems and really like just trying to find a solution to each problem you encounter, OT is phenomenal for that, because that's what we do all day, every day. And if you find that people come to you and they're comfortable talking to you, they're comfortable divulging things to you, and having you kind of problem solve with them, or kind of just even just listening and being kind of just kind of in their issue with them, in their problem with them, you would be phenomenal with mental health, because working and in OT in general, honestly, what we say about mental health is that you will work with mental health in whatever setting you're in. I mean, obviously, whenever we are with another person, we deal with their whole experience. So their physical, their body, but also, you know, how they are working through their problems. And then lastly, again, this is kind of an obvious one, but if you like science, healthcare, and research is a big one. If you like to read research, I will admit it, I'm the nerd who I love to read research, but that's just me. If you want to do research, occupational therapy we are so hungry for new research in our field. So we want you, come join us.
So now you get to hear a little bit about our experiences and how we kind of came into the world of OT. Again, we are super biased. Sorry about this. We tried our best with the clips. We tried to get as much info about speech and PT. We love them too, but we just want to share kind of what our journey was in becoming OTs and future OTs. Oh, it's me. There I am. So in this picture here is when I graduated high school. I went to high school in Indiana. So originally I wanted to go to college to be an eye doctor. And, you know, it was this thing. And I was like, I'm going to be an eye doctor and nobody's going to tell me anything. And this is what I'm going to do. And I kind of got to college and I was like, man, like it was a lot and it was a lot of classes. And not to discourage if anybody wants to be an eye doctor, I'm all for it. I still have my thing with it too. I love optometry, and even a funny story with that. My optometrist was a Black man. And so that's how I wanted to be. I talked to him and he told me like, you should do it. And like, you should go for it. And like, he really encouraged me. That was kind of where my motivation and my drive kind of came from, was my relationship with him. But when I got in school, I kind of realized it wasn't for me, which is fine. You're all going to go through that process of just being like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know how I want to do it. You know, it's just, you got to take it a day at a time. So I ended up going to Purdue University Northwest, which is in Indiana. And again, I started off as a biology major, and I loved my biology classes, and I love the human anatomy and learning about the body, and it was great. But it wasn't clicking with me. The passion wasn't there. So I talked to my advisor and she gave me this list of careers because I liked my psych classes too. And so she was like, what do you think about psych? And I'm like, I'm going to do psych. I'm going to major in psych. I love it. And I'm like, but I still don't know what I want to do. And so she gave me this list of careers, and occupational therapy was on there. And I'm like, I don't know what this is. Let me Google it. And I ended up loving it. Then I went to information session, and then my little brother, he had an injury, and then he ended up having occupational therapy, and I was able to sit in with his sessions, and I was like, this is the best thing in life. And how come I didn't know about this before I came to school? So that's my journey. And this picture here on the right with me and Dr. Holes. So I did an internship with her in my undergrad, and she played a big part in me being an OT as well. So she was a school psychologist, and I worked hand with her, and I did assessments with her. And she also let me do some observations with the OTs that worked in the school. So that is my experience and kind of how I came about being an OT. And again, Dr. Holes is great, and she did her thing, and it was awesome. And I got to do some assessments. And so that's just kind of my experience of how I came to OT and how I applied to OT school. And I ended up at St. Kate's. So there's me.
All right, so you guys, there's a guy cutting grass behind me, and so if you hear that, then we might have to clip and I'll find a different place, but I think it's not passing now, so we might be good. Yeah, so my name is Erin, and I am studying OT, which we already talked about 12 times. But the way that I got here was really in my initial exposure to people in the disability community. So you can see on the far left there is my Uncle Eddie. He has been in my life obviously forever because he's older than me and he's my uncle. And he lived with us when I was in high school and then into college as well. So I think just getting to expose someone with Down syndrome, understanding the variety of abilities that people have made me really comfortable around people with disabilities. And it actually gave me, okay. Is that picking up? Can you?
I'd say no worries, Erin. We'll make it.
Cool. Awesome. So Uncle Ed, yeah, disabilities. I was exposed to it, and it brought me a lot of joy to communicate with him, and so I sought those opportunities even as early as elementary school to be involved with the special ed classrooms at whatever school I was in. So you can see this picture. In the middle is me with a girl named Jasmine. I have her face blurred for privacy, but she was a really special person in my path as well. I actually did water therapy with her during our gym class. I was in the adaptive PE class, so I was a one-on-one aide for her for a semester. And every week we would go, and she had really low movement below her neck, and so in the water you're a little more weightless, and so we worked on a range of motion of all of her limbs, and we were able to get her heart rate up, which there's not a ton of things you can do to do that if you have don't have access of your arms and your legs. And so she can kick her legs to get her heart rate up in the pool, which was a lot of fun. And I think just being able to work with her, she also died is the thing, but like 2 years ago she died. I don't know why this is happening. Anywho, so I continue to work with people with disabilities. Jazzy being one of them. And I picked up jobs in high school too. I have little day camp kids going on. I was a one-on-one aide for children with disabilities for 4 years in high school, which was a lot of fun. And that just gave me more exposure. So I started out just with Down syndrome where I was comfortable with it. I expanded it to more physical and cognitive disabilities. And then all of a sudden, my grandma started having disabilities too. So that's her, top right. So she's always not had vision. She's blind, but she got to the point where she wasn't able to live independently anymore. So I kind of bridged the gap between her living independently at home and her living, it's getting louder. Can you guys still hear me? All right, right on. So I bridged the gap between her being on the wait list for assisted living. So I hung out with my gram, took care of her, cooked for her, that type of thing. And I was like, hold up, I like working with the elderly too. And this is wonderful. So then I worked as a PCA for the elderly doing in-home care. So all this to say, I got exposed to a lot of people that had different levels of need. I went to Marquette University to be a doctor. And I think I realized just throughout those 4 years that I really, really valued long amounts of time with my patients. Best case scenario, if you want to see people a lot, is you have a really sick patient, right? Otherwise, you only get 15 minutes to hang out with someone and hear about how their health is progressing. And I value time with the people that I'm with. And that was what made therapy so attractive to me, is that I'll be there for my patients from day one all the way, for months, on a weekly basis to be able to support them through their treatment. So that's kind of what made me interested. I chose OT because of how many different settings you can support people in, and I love activity analysis. I love thinking about different activities, what's the barrier that they're having, what exercises do we need to be able to help support them in that activity, and then, in what way can I fill in to elevate their quality of life. So that was why I picked OT, and it's been such a tremendous blessing to get to continue my education at St. Kate's and to get to meet all the other rock star OTs that I've gotten to meet.
All right, hi. So I think I'm one of the very few people that knew about OT from a very early age, because my mom actually went to OT school when I was in elementary school. And she didn't end up becoming an OT just because of life circumstances, but I'd often come home to her doing homework. And the day I decided that I was going to become an OT too was she was doing an assignment. I think she was working or it was supposed to be for like a geriatric population to practice cooking and like range of motion of like shoulders and elbows, I think, or I don't know. I was like in 4th grade. But they were making ice cream in a bag. Have you guys done that before, where you like have the rock salt and you like shake it? And I was like, you can make ice cream for a job. And I thought that was incredible. So I decided I was going to be an OT because I want to make ice cream in a bag. And here I am. I did have some doubts like throughout, like since 4th grade to now. But I think in general, I came back to OT because whenever I started exploring another career, I kind of found that still in OT. So for a long time, I was like, I want to be a teacher. I love the idea of teaching and spreading new ideas and whatnot to people. And you do that every day with OT. For a while, I wanted to be a psychologist and work with mental health a lot. But I mean, you do a lot of mental health work with OT, as other people have mentioned. So I don't know. Yeah, I just kept coming back to it. And I'm really glad that I did. And also throughout my childhood as I was growing, because I kept this OT in the back of my head, I did have a lot of exposure to it. So you can see in the first 2 pictures, I worked at 2 different locations that did equine therapy because I was also that annoying horse girl. So I did, for my bat mitzvah project, in 7th grade, I had to do like some charity work, and so I went to work at it's called HETRA. It's Heartline Equine Therapy Riding Academy, I think is what the full acronym is. And they work with people of all disabilities, and they have different riding programs. So they have kids that will ride horses, either side saddle or kind of more typical riding, like the conventional saddles, or they have them also with like horse and buggy, where they can like have like a cart and they ride. And so I worked a lot with them, and I worked with the OT. I was like the OT's little helper, and we played games, and I learned a lot about it then. And it was just so fun. Like I didn't think it was a job. We were walking around playing games on horses, and I loved that. And then I also in the summers worked at a summer camp that had Easter seals come. I don't know if you've heard of that organization, but they do a lot with disabilities, and they have camps for people with disabilities. And so they would come and ride horses with us. And it was just really fun to see the campers who had either never ridden a horse or even been around a horse get to ride, and they get to pet the horse and brush the horse, and just seeing their faces light up was just amazing. And also just like now looking back, I see all the therapeutic benefits of having their legs muscles stretch out if they're in a wheelchair, or the gait of the horse is very similar to the gait of humans, so it's really mimicking if they're not walking often, if they're in wheelchairs or they have walkers, it's like really mimicking what they're doing. So there's so many therapeutic benefits. So I can continue to be a horse girl even through my career. And yeah, so I ended up at St. Kate's. So I know we talked a little bit about our degrees already. So I mentioned that I did applied science and psychology, and that's kind of a unique thing to St. Catherine University, which is where all of us are getting our degrees right now. So I was a dual degree student. So I actually only did my undergrad for 3 years. And then in my last year of undergrad, I started OT school already. So that's a really great program to cut down on costs, because I'm sure you guys all know college is very expensive. And so I didn't have to pay for that extra year of grad school because my undergraduate costs were covered under that cost. So I would like to plug that. It's also nice because it's less schooling, and my psychology degree is specifically geared also for OT. So I took sociology, and I took human anat and phys and exercise science and stuff like that. So it's a very specific psychology degree, but it's perfect for OT, and I have felt really grateful for that experience. So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up here.
And my experience is a little bit different from the rest of these ladies. I'm like the old auntie of the group because I came to OT later, a little bit later in my life. So in high school and when I was younger, I was definitely one of those people who was just uncomfortable around people with disabilities. I didn't know how to act. I didn't know what to think. I kind of just had that level of discomfort, and I knew I was sure. I was like, that's just not for me. I'm not going to work with people with disabilities. I'm uncomfortable. And then I had the most amazing experience, the opportunity to go to Mexico with a church youth group. And then we worked with an organization called Mobilize Mankind. And it's basically just a husband and wife team. The wife is a physical therapist. The husband is a man of all trades. He's just there to support the organization. But what they do is they get donations from the United States, and they bring them down to basically Cabo San Lucas area, the very southern tip of the Baja in Mexico. And they fit children and adults for not only wheelchairs, like you can see in the middle picture, but they fit walkers, and they also bring prosthetics professionals down, and they have a whole prosthetics lab down there. So they are able to fit people with specialized prosthetics. So many things that they do. And so I had the opportunity to work with them for a week, and I got to work specifically with a little guy who was in kindergarten, and he needed a walker, and he just wasn't able to get around. And literally within that week, he went from needing to be carried everywhere to be able to walk in his school. So that just blew my mind, obviously. And I learned, and I had the hands-on experience of knowing, like, kind of what a lot of people are way ahead of, were way ahead of me. People with disabilities are so similar to us, and they have so many of the same thoughts and feelings and goals and motivations that we do. The picture on the right is actually my little sister. She went on that same mission trip with me, and she actually graduated from OT school a couple years ago. So she has been in OT before me. And anyway, just a tiny bit about my education. I went to St. Thomas for the first 2 years of undergrad. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I studied Spanish, I studied theology, all these different things. I took a break, and I again worked with people with disabilities in an independent living home. I went back and studied psychology, got my BA in psychology, and again went and worked with kids with autism in a specialized school down in Arizona. That's where I really got exposed to OT and really wanted to pursue assistantship. So I got my 2-year degree in occupational therapy assisting. And ever since then, I did move back to Minnesota after I got that degree, and I've only ever worked in OT in Minnesota. So I was able to work in a nursing home with people who not only had just gotten their limbs replaced, or not limbs, their joints replaced, their hips or their knees, but also people who had traumatic brain injury, which is TBI, which we've been kind of mentioning a little bit. So I had this really amazing opportunity to work with people who were on ventilators, who needed tracheotomies, who had just any number of things going on. So I mean, I could go on forever on how awesome working in that kind of a setting was, but I will spare you that. Long story short, you can come from anywhere and come to OT, and OT will accept you with open arms, because we need people from all walks of life to come and to show people that they can be independent with what they do.
That was so great. Sorry. But Brady, are we good on time? Because I think we have like a slide or two left.
Yeah, I think we're doing okay. If we could try to wrap up between 2:20 and 2:30, if you all have a little bit of extra time for questions and all that, that would be awesome.
Yes.
But yeah,
So
I'd love for you guys to get through this PowerPoint.
Let's do it. So this is just a short clip again about just someone who their process of getting into OT school and like applying to graduate school. Again, like Christy said, people come from so many different backgrounds. Like all of us have come together and have just found this common interest in this career field. So it's just a short clip of this this man's experience.
Now, if you're interested in occupational therapy, what you have to do is volunteer, you know, because there's going to be people applying with like a 3.8 GPA, 3.5 GPA, 4.0 GPA. So in order for you to stand out amongst from that crowd, what you want to do is have a high GPA, but at the same time have different kind of volunteer experience, so they can see that, all right, this person has a high GPA and also volunteered at this place, and this place. You know, you volunteer with pediatrics, adults, geriatrics, just to let go of that fear of touching a patient, and also to diversify yourself as far as your experience. For OT school, most schools require you taking the GRE exam. Thank God I didn't have to take it, but most schools require it. Just take the test, do your best on it, and apply your highest prereq GPA, and you'll get in. Just keep on pushing hard, keep on going forward. Most schools require you to take a certain number of classes or a varied amount of classes. Just go on the school website, whichever school you're interested in, go on their website, go in the search box, type in occupational therapy, go on their admission page, and you should see like a list of all the classes you need for each school. So it's mainly like abnormal psychology, lifespan development, physics 1, physics 2, with all the labs, chemistry 1, chemistry 2. I majored in kinesiology, so that background kind of prepared me to apply for occupational therapy. And honestly, it didn't take me one time to get in. A little bit of back history. I applied 6 times. I got rejected 6 times. I got in on my 7th try. So don't feel down on yourself if you don't get accepted the first time. Just use that as fuel to apply everything you have for the 2nd time, or the 3rd time, or the 4th time, or the 5th time. Just keep on going. Like, if you really want to pursue this field, just keep on going. It's a rewarding field. You're seeing patients, you're seeing people at their lowest, and you're building them back up with compassion, with empathy. You're placing yourself in their shoes, and you're helping them to be the best person that they can be, and live a life of full.
So that's just his experience. And we just really like that clip because of his emphasis on volunteer work. As you heard, a lot of us did a lot of volunteer work. I didn't really put a lot of emphasis on what I did. I volunteered at a pediatric rehabilitation center over one summer, and it was a really good experience. I worked with kids who had autism, kids who had Down syndrome. It was really cool just to be in that healing environment and helping environment, just seeing kids thrive and doing things that they love to do, laugh, play. And I'm also a behavioral therapist, like I mentioned in the beginning of this presentation. So I work with kids that have autism, and you guys can ask questions about it later too, but just so we can keep it pushing. But just to emphasize on the volunteer experience and how important that is for your personal growth, your academics, everything. That volunteer experience is key to getting into any grad program that is in the health sciences. So,
and you can get paid too. It doesn't have to just be volunteers.
Yes,
Think, if you're going to be applying for McDonald's, maybe try applying to be a swim instructor or something that puts you in contact with the populations that you're going to be treating in a healthcare setting.
Agreed.
Yeah, so just kind of to reiterate what Mr. Green was talking about in that video, of the first steps you need to take if you want to pursue OT as a career. And I would add that this is also pretty similar to most rehab therapists, is just doing all of this stuff and considering all of this is just really important for any healthcare field that you want to get into, especially if it's a rehab. But obviously we're a little biased and we know best about OT. So kind of like Diamond and Mr. Green was talking about, service learning, volunteering, and shadowing is so helpful. It's a good way to just test out if you're even interested in this field. So if something is clicking with you and you're kind of like, this sounds kind of cool, go shadow an OT. I know right now with COVID it's a little more difficult, but you can find ways. You can find YouTube videos that do day in a life, which can be your version of shadowing right now in COVID times. But yeah, volunteering and service learning is so important. And like Erin mentioned, it doesn't have to be volunteering. I worked at a summer camp and that worked with disabilities. So there's lots of opportunities out there to get some experience and to get some exposure and figure out maybe even kind of what field you might be specifically interested in. And that's kind of a good way to figure out what rehab specifically you're interested in. If you're more interested in PT or speech or even respiratory or OT, whatever it is. And then kind of once you figure out more of where you think you want to go, reviewing the requirements of the school and the program. So grades, letter of recommendations is always really good to make sure you have someone who is willing to write you one. And like he mentioned in the video, GRE, which is a standardized test to get into a lot of healthcare fields. And I just want to plug St. Kate's doesn't require the GRE, which is so nice. It's just one less thing you have to think about. And also I would plug, since I was a dual degree student and I went to St. Kate's as my undergrad, we also don't require the SAT or ACT, which is very nice. So I don't know, just like review different requirements of schools and programs and make sure you're trying to meet those as best as you can. And questions to ask yourself. So are you comfortable working closely with people and in private situations? And this applies to, again, all rehab therapies. You're gonna be working and touching people. We help people toilet, we help people shower. Like, you're gonna get up close and personal. So make sure you're okay with that before you jump in. Are you comfortable working on a team? As we emphasized, rehab therapists don't do anything by ourselves. Everything's very team oriented to get the person as independent and functioning as possible. So you're gonna be having team meetings. You're gonna be like talking to PTs before you set your goals. You're gonna, just always be working with people in the healthcare field. And then you're also gonna be working with the team of the person, because most people have caregivers, they have parents, they have, spouses, they have friends, they have siblings. Like, you're just gonna be working with a lot of people all the time and making sure that kind of everything is being accounted for. Another thing to consider, at least with OT, with OTA versus OT, like, would you rather work day to day with clients and do less of like the planning stuff? Or would you rather oversee like the whole process, which is more of the OT side of like setting the goals and the intervention plans? Not to say that OTA doesn't have some control there. And then in terms of choosing schools or programs, does the location matter to you? Like, do you want to stay around the Twin Cities? If so, look what's available. So I know like the U has some OT programs, and what's the other one? Scholastica, St. Scholastica does. So if you want to stay around Minnesota, and there's lots around the country, and you can really find those pretty easily by Googling. And then does the length of time it takes to complete the program matter? So do you want to be in school for a long time? Because if you want to get your doctorate, that's going to be about 7 years, and that's a lot of time. So just kind of figure out what works best for you. It's different for everyone, and you can always go back. So I'm just getting my master's right now because I don't want to be in school much longer. But I plan on going back eventually to get my doctorate anyway. You can kind of build your program the way you need to and the way that works for your life. It's very flexible. Which in general about OT, we're all about adapting. So whatever works for you can work for the program that you find. So.
And it goes by fast. I know. Team OTD over here, all three of us, 3 out of 4 of us, we're doctoral students, and it goes by fast. And again, it just is based on what you're looking for in your career. You don't have to be a doctorate. You don't even have to do master's. You could be assistant. So it's just what you're looking for and that passion, that drive. Where is it at? But yeah, OTD. We rock too. We're getting through it.
You're all right.
So yeah, that is our presentation. So questions, or Brady, if you want to take it from here.
Yeah, I'll leave it open still for you 4. Students, what we're going to do it a little bit differently than we had done in previous, because there's only, I believe, 8 of us that have joined today. So we're going to take turns unmuting yourself, and then you can ask a question through your mic so that we can actually hear your voices for a change. If you end up talking over somebody else, we're just going to take turns and go around and kind of do it that way. So we'll go from there. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask away. And Diamond and Christy and Aaron and Naomi, feel free to kind of do a round table and jump in whenever you want to on questions. Maybe somebody has a better answer than somebody else, or vice versa, and we'll kind of do it that way.
Sounds good.
And I did get 2 questions actually asked from Ray. What is their favorite thing about their job is the first part of that question. So maybe we'll just take a turn for all 4 of you just to answer. And I know that you're not in the job quite yet, but what are you really looking forward to, or what have you experienced already that's your favorite?
I guess I can go first. The most, like, again, we're not practicing OTs yet, but I think that my favorite thing so far is the equipment. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I feel like we have like the coolest things that we work with, like, cause we adapt environments, we adapt tools. And so we had a assistant technology course in the fall, and we had to go around the campus in a wheelchair. And then we had to not to offend the population of that people in wheelchairs. We were just trying to get that experience of what it's like to move around, to try to go to the bathroom. So I guess my favorite thing is just our ability to adapt things and the equipment that we use. And we have like a dressing stick. And so I don't know, I just think that our tools and the resources that we have as a profession are so cool and amazing. And just the program, we have so much fun, and the other girls can attest to this too. Like, I've never laughed as much as we do in our program, and we just have fun. And then so it's a thing, and it's like a team building, and I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just everything is, I guess, the whole program. But the key takeaways are, I guess, just the experience, getting to know other people who are passionate about what you want to do. And again, like the equipment that we use, I think it's cool. So.
Anybody else want to chime in on that one?
I'd be happy to mention too, just super quick. I have been working in the field for a while as an assistant. So I'm actually kind of, what I love about the field is that you really have so many different options as far, like kind of what one of the first ladies in one of the clips said. You can graduate and go work with kids in the school, and then you can go and you can work for a company and fit people for wheelchairs, and then you can go and work with people with spinal cord injuries in water therapy, and then you can do so many things. And I've talked to some older OTs, and they mention how wonderful OT is, because if you feel like you get really burnt out working in, like, let's say a nursing home, you work in a nursing home for however many years, and you're like, the schedule, like, I can't do it anymore for whatever reason, any job has that a little bit. But if you decide this really isn't what I want anymore, this isn't where I want to be, you can go and work with kids in an outpatient clinic. It's like you don't have to go back to school to get more experience in that way. So I love that about OT. And I think the other side of it is we really are face to face with people, sometimes at like the worst point in their life, like genuinely, maybe it's after something really traumatic happened to them. Maybe they were in a car accident and now they are in the hospital, and we are there to like give them hope and to say, we're in this with you. We're right here next to you. And we're going to use our knowledge of what we know, and you're going to tell us about yourself. And together we're going to get you to the point where you're going to get back to what you want to do and what you prioritize in your life. So anyway, I think those two things together are really what make OT the best thing for me personally.
I would echo that. I really love how empowering OT is, because it's being functional at every step of the way, So like Christy mentioned, a lot of times you are working with someone at the worst point in their life, or just really down moments in general within the scope of their life, and helping them advocate for themselves and figuring out how to be functional the way they want to be whenever wherever they are in their life, I think is just so incredible. I think, I don't know, we typically think of OT with, people with disabilities or, mental health or whatever after an accident, but literally OT has benefited me, and I don't have anything specifically wrong with me. Just figuring out ways that are adaptable for you and like what worked best for you, considering the context and the environment. Like, I just moved into a new apartment. My kitchen is tiny and I hate it. I hate it so much because I love to cook and I'm a messy cooker, so I like to spread out. And I have, using my OT skills, I've managed to make a cooking space that's fine for me. It's not my favorite, but it's like functioning, and I'm doing it, and I feel so much better now doing it because when I first moved in and I was trying to cook, I was miserable. And it's just a stupid thing, like cooking dinner, you know? So I just love how empowering it is and how creative you can be. You know, like Erin was mentioning with her uncle, like he had elbow trouble, so they're gonna fish because that's something that you do. You know, there's so many things you can do with it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what has been said. One other piece that I'm going to add, working with the disability community, sometimes there's a cognitive piece to that disability where there's a little bit less of an awareness and less of a frustration. But that allows you to then support the caregivers. So like, it's really helping people with disabilities or any level of barrier to function live more fulfilled lives and to be able to eliminate or reduce barriers to their quality of life, which I think is amazing. And they're very, very simple interventions, but the fact that I'm trained to think about something in a problem solver way has, like Naomi's saying, it's completely changed the way that I even look at my own life. So it's trained me to critical think in a way that I haven't done before. And I'm so like, this is so easy that I want everyone to know about it. And so that comes out when I'm talking to any of my clients that I work with.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. And then Naomi had a second part to this question. It's kind of, Ray had a second question, and this is for Naomi, and it's kind of a fun one. Naomi, have you ever rode on a horse?
Yeah. Like I said, I was a horse girl, annoyingly so probably. So yeah, my neighbor used to have a barn, so I would go out riding then. And then when they moved away, so I stopped riding in 6th grade. So I wasn't doing like intensive riding because I was little and it was just for fun. And then with Hetra, I didn't really ride very often with them just because I was helping other people ride. And then when I worked at summer camp, it was a Boy Scout camp in Nebraska because that's where I'm kind of from. It was a Boy Scout camp, and I worked with the horses, so I would ride a lot then and teach people to ride. And then Easter Seals would come in and we would work with them on riding. But yeah, I kind of stopped in college just because I live in the Twin Cities and there's not a lot of horse riding around, and I'm not an expert by any means, but yeah, I've ridden not very well, but I've never fallen off, so there's that.
What other questions do you all have? And feel free to ask yourself.
I would like to ask a question.
Yeah, go for it, Patricia.
How much student debt can we expect even if we're going for just an OT assistant or even doctoral? Yeah.
It's a rough question, but I'll take it. No, I'm just kidding. I think it really varies. I'm really glad Naomi is here to speak to the dual degree program, because I think that's if you're wanting to jump right into the master's or doctorate program, that is a phenomenal option. And I mean, you'll do your own research, but we think St. Kate's is kind of great. So, but anyway, if you're thinking about cost, if you're planning on going the whole master's doctorate route, that's a really great option. I don't know why I'm answering this question because I don't have a good sense of the actual numbers. Maybe somebody else does, but I did go through OTA school, and I'll say cost wise, if that's really something that is in the top of your priorities as far as keeping costs down. I love doing OTA, and we work directly with people all day, every day. And when we were in OTA school, our professors were saying, you guys are the experts on the treatments that you do with people. So my journey, kind of how I came to it, it was perfect for me, because I got to kind of get a feel for all aspects of OT. I'm rambling. Does somebody else have any idea as far as numbers wise specifically?
So again, it depends on the program. So St. Kate's is a private college, so their cost per credit is a little higher than a public institution. But I think I'm glad you brought that up, because that's what you think about, right? You think about loans, and you think about debt as a student. I remember when I first started graduate school, that was what I was worried about. And that was like a big fear of mine, just personal disclosure. That's what I was worried about. That was the top of my mind. And so I met with, we have financial advisors, as all schools do. I met with her and I just talked to her because, again, like, if you don't know, they are counselors and they have a training to work with us, this specific population of people who are students in college. I remember I brought that up to her and how she put it in such like an elegant and just excellent way and talked about it and just was kind of like, if you want it and if you are passionate about it, then that's something that, you know, that's always going to be there, or that's something you can work through, or that's something that you can plan for financially, but like do it. Like if you want it and you want, like, you know, go for it. And I know that's kind of the thing that people do, right? Like they're like, oh, how much debt? But there's ways around it. And then again, too, like if it's something that you're passionate for, I wouldn't let that get in the way. Not to say that it doesn't get in the way and it's something that you should consider. But I mean, like I have the numbers, but I just don't know how. I mean, like Brady too, maybe you can help me out here too, because I have the numbers, but I don't want to like throw them out there and now it's just hanging out there and people are like, oh, I don't want to be OT. So I mean,
yeah, for sure.
Oh no, go ahead, Brady. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. Yeah, so this is something that we've kind of highlighted in our college folder, if any of you have kind of dove into that a little bit. Generally, it's going to be like what Diamond said. It depends on the program and it depends on the school. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, you four, but St. Kate's also has quite a few scholarship opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities for scholarships at state schools. I'm partnered with Augsburg University as well. I don't think that they have an OT-PT program per se, but they do have those undergraduate that can get you into that field. Also, a lot of great scholarships there too. So really, really start to look into scholarships if money is kind of a concern. But also consider that bridge program that Aaron talked about too. That's something that I'm trying to hit home for everybody here. And if I haven't shared as much of my personal story in the past, I didn't pay out of pocket for school when I got my bachelor's degree. I just couldn't. A lot of people can't do that. A way to make that cheaper before you get that bill 6 months after you graduate, because I tell you, it'll come, it'll happen, and all of a sudden you get that first bill and you're going, whoa, I owe this much money on my student loans. But it really differs. It depends on the scholarships you get. It depends on if you saved any money to apply to any school. It also depends on, are you going somewhere that's out of state, in state? Is there something that's called reciprocity, which means there's colleges that are partnered like around the Midwest that you can receive what they call in-state tuition. So there's a lot of Wisconsin schools that do this, a lot of Iowa schools, I believe some in North Dakota as well. So there is a lot to really look into on that, and there's not one specific answer, which is why I think there's a little bit of a struggle to get you the answer that you're looking for on this one, Brigida. But really explore that before you're graduating high school to see what are the programs out there, what is the general cost of tuition year after year. Right now, we're in a lucky kind of part if you're going to college within the next year where there's a lot of tuition freezes. And I don't doubt that those tuition freezes would be in place possibly for the next 2 years due to COVID. But I can't hit home hard enough that really look into scholarships, really look into bridge programs if you're worried about financial costs. I think those are some of the best ways that you can start to keep those costs low. And like everybody had mentioned on here today too, whether you're volunteering or get a job, be sure that you're building those experiences so you can get into college. And if you have a job, save that money. Don't spend it all right away just because you're getting a paycheck. Really start to think on some of that so then you're not really in a tight space once you get into college as well. I think Diamond was also right and kind of hit it on the head too, is that if finances are your biggest concern, you know, there's a lot of other things out there to really look towards and consider too, because yes, there is costs that are going to come back, but almost every person in the healthcare field in some time, in some way, has some sort of student loan, has some sort of student debt. Even if you're fortunate enough to have, I don't know, I'm just going out there and say you won the lottery and you can afford to pay for your 4 years of school, that's great. If you can pay for your 7 years of school, that's great too. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have certificates that you might need later on. You're going to need something called credentialing throughout your entire professional life, and that all costs money too. and sometimes your organizations won't pay for that. So just keep that in your mind that even though loans are a little bit scary and debt's a little bit scary, it's something that we all will deal with, and you just need to research a little bit more on how that debt can play into your future too, because you can be very, very successful while still having student loan debt just by having a job and by going to school and making sure that you're going in the right steps. And I will touch a little bit too on the last part of this with what Diamond had shared with financial advisors. There's a lot of people in schools that are there to help you. So there's career services, there's financial aid services, there's hubs all around every school that you're going to be going to, and they have people there that are going to help you to answer these questions. So that was a little bit of a long spin, but I really like that question, Prajita. Just make sure that you're all looking into that a little bit more for the schools that you're going into, no matter what the program is.
And even
Yes.
super quick after that too, even after you graduate, there are opportunities out in the workforce where some organizations will do a little bit of loan forgiveness too. So I know I'm from South Dakota originally, and people who commit to working like with the Native American population, oftentimes they'll be able to get loan forgiveness. So do some research in that too, because that would be a phenomenal way to kind of not only work with really marginalized and underserved populations, but even kind of get some of that loan paid back in a timely manner too.
And I have one more thing to pop in on this topic. It was a huge part of my search too a few years ago. So yeah, 2-year schools like tech schools or community colleges. I don't know why when people would say go to community college first, I didn't really understand. I didn't really understand what that meant. So I was graduating from my bachelor's next to people that probably paid a third of what I did for the same education. So you go for the first 2 years to community college and you get the same classes, and then you can get all those credits transferred over to apply to your bachelor's from a full university. So, I mean, maybe you guys are like, yeah, Erin, no duh, everybody knows that. But the fact that I was literally sitting next to someone at graduation that had the same diploma I did, was going on to the same type of grad schools that I was, it just could have been such a lot of a lower cost way to get that bachelor's. So that's a factor to consider too.
Yeah, thanks. That was a great question. Okay, so I know that we're kind of getting closer to 2:30. We might go a little bit over because I want to be sure that we get all these questions answered. I got 2 questions here from Princess, and if we can try to be as short as we can with still answering the question as well as we can. The first one is, being an OT more individualized when working with a patient, or is it more of like a team of OT helping with the patient?
So it definitely depends on your setting. Sorry, time it out just super quick. It's both, which is kind of the complicated and the simple answer. You will work one-on-one with your own goals with the person, but that person has goals with all of their other therapists too. So if they have the full gamut, if they have OT, PT, speech, they will have different goals in all of those areas, but you're all working towards getting them to the point where they're independent. So it's kind of both of those things. But you and there are co-treatments. So you sometimes will work actually with other therapists together. When I was first starting, I worked a lot with PTs and we did co-treatments. So the PT and the OT are together with the patient sometimes. That happens with people, especially when they're really deconditioned or really weak. We'll work together. So it's a mixture. It's a great mixture of both of those things.
It's a great mixture. I guess I'm trying to maybe fully answer Princess's question. I'm thinking like, I guess when you are alone as an OT, and you can help me out here too, Christy. I mean, but yeah, again, like evaluating, when you evaluate a client, you sometimes are by yourselves, or a lot of times you're alone, is if you're trying to see where that client is at the beginning of your services and at the end of your services. So that may be a moment when you are kind of working alone, or you might be going into a session with just you if you're trying to see where this client is at. But again, it depends on the setting. Like if it's a hospital setting, you're probably going to be in collaboration a lot. a school setting, you might be alone a lot, or you might be talking to a teacher. So it depends on the setting, if that answers the question.
Yeah, I think that was great. And then the second part to that question, and I know we kind of talked a little bit on that with some of the bridge programs, and Christy, for sure, with your experience. But what type of advancement opportunities are there in the OT field? What exists within that?
Man, my OTD people, where we at?
At each level there are different things. So in OTA, I know a lot of people would kind of advance their practice knowledge. Well, first of all, you have to have continuing education. That's a given with this profession. So you're not going to be like, I'm done with my degree, I don't have to go to class anymore. You're still going to have to get credits to still prove that you're competent. So you can kind of tailor those classes to what you want. If you're interested in mental health like I am, you can go to continuing education classes that are specifically tailored to mental health. Some of the official things you can do, though, you can get an actual certification in traumatic brain injury. You can get a certification in wound care. You can get a certification in like lymphedema massage. And there are tons of them within different, like with pediatrics, you can do specific for sensory therapy, sensory integration. Those are some great ways to kind of like go from the base level. I just graduated, I'm in my first job, even in OTA and OT, to kind of get more specialized in the areas that you are interested in, and then also kind of build a little niche for yourself too. You know, make yourself indispensable to the place where you're working, because you're the person who has tunneled into the thing that you love, and you're the expert on it. So there are so many different ways to kind of advance your career in that way.
And I know you're probably thinking like, oh my God, once you leave school, you have to do more school. So I know what it sounds like with the continuing education. But when you are a therapist, you have to be licensed and you have to be registered for whichever state you're practicing in. And so in order for you to keep up that license, you have to take these courses. They're not even really courses. I think a lot of them are online too, of you saying that I did this many hours to keep up my licensure, and also to keep up my, so I'm continually growing in this field. And like Christy said, you can tailor it to however you want. And sometimes even too, like on campus at St. Kate's, the students, we have put on presentations, and we've had other practitioners come and watch us, and they can count that towards their continuing education, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of ways that you can do it. So you don't have to think of it like I'm always going to be in school forever, because that's not the case. And then with the OTD program, you do have the option to come back. Me, Christy, and Aaron are in the entry level program, so we are going all the way straight through. So with the doctorate degree, if you see yourself more of like a leadership position in OT, I guess, like if you see it, like this is later on down the road too, not even right now, if you just want to consider OT, but when you get to the point, if you do want to do OT, you think about like, man, I want to teach this, then that's when like the doctorate degree comes in place. Or man, I can see myself really being like a rehab director. Like I can lead a rehab program in a hospital. So that's kind of what the doctoral degree is for, but you don't have to think about that now. That's kind of later on down the road. So I don't know if that was a little rant but yeah.
Oh, that was great. Thank you.
And just to add, continuing ed is any licensed healthcare practitioner too. Like nurses have to do it, doctors have to do it, all of them have to maintain their license.
And like Diamond said too, because I have to do continuing education for my job too, and it's all things that you want to learn anyway, so it's not like you're really going back to a class or anything. In a way, it's kind of fun because you're enhancing everything that you want to know more about to begin with. So this is great. What other questions are out there? We can take a couple more minutes if we need to, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. But are there any other questions? I know this was pretty in-depth with everything today, which was great, but anything else you're wondering?
And then Brady, I'm going to share my screen again. I'm just going to put our contact info up, that slide with our emails. If you all want to write it down, feel free. I mean, I don't know if can I speak for all of you, Aaron, Christine? Okay, so if you have any questions or if you want to reach out to us or just anything, like our emails are on there. We are on our emails every day. Trust us, because we are in class. And yeah, so we're going to be checking our emails if you have a question or if you want to learn about any of the volunteer experiences that we have done in our high school years. Just reach out to us and we can send that info to you. Or I'm sure if Aaron or Christy, if you guys have the people that you observed, you can give that to them too. So I'm just going to share that really quick.
And Diamond, would you mind sending me that PowerPoint too? Because then I could put it up online for any other students that might have some questions too.
Yeah, of course.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I have a question about like I guess the physical side of it. Like you said, it would be like physically demanding. Could you like further elaborate on that, or what do you expect going into this career?
Well, when we were talking about physically demanding, it's not necessarily that you have to be able to like run 3 miles in 20 minutes or anything like that. It's just that, especially depending on what setting you're working in, but a lot of times we work on mobility and like transferring from in the bed to on a chair and stuff like that. So a lot of times you will be helping a client kind of get up, and so then you do have to have like enough strength to support them. And other people can chime in, but it's not like you have to be physically like crazy in shape. It's just more that you have to be able to support your clients in various ways, I guess. I don't know if other people have more in-depth answers.
I know.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better.
Go ahead, Erin.
I agree, it just depends, but also setting is a really big piece to that. So if you're in a rehab setting, yeah, you're gonna be helping people stand up and you're gonna be helping people walk, and some of them aren't gonna be able to support themselves and balance effectively. So you're gonna provide a little bit more of your arm strength to hold them up. But there's also a lot of different places that you can work that are less physically strenuous. A school setting is one of those. You can work as a hand therapist, which is just doing finger exercises with people. So although there's some settings that would be a little bit more on your feet all day, working more physically strenuous, there's a lot that also wouldn't be that way.
A lot of people are interested in peds. If you're working with kids, you're going to be on the floor. I always want to tell people that you're going to be on the floor, you're going to be doing kid stuff. So that's a big part of the physical side of peds too.
Yes, and then also just to like in school they talk about that, and then we also practice ways on how we can have better posture, how we can be more aware of how we're standing and bending. So they teach you, they give you those skills when you are in the program to say like, okay, yeah, we know that this job, you're going to be standing a lot and you're going to be bending a lot. So let us tell you how to stand and bend when you are working with these people. So also know there's support around that. And then also you have to educate your clients about their posture and what they're doing. So you're always like in that just cycle of checking yourself and checking other people like, hey, just so you know, so you want injure yourself more, it's better if you bend your back like this. I know that was a rant, but just saying that, yeah, everything all the girls said, and just to say that there's support around it, and yeah, they want you to be healthy and do this career for a long time. So, and
that's in a lot of healthcare fields too, that they're going to be asking you the same thing too. But yeah, definitely when you're working in OT. Great question. Anything else?
So I was wondering, like, let's just say like life happens and you couldn't get certified like in time and you had to take a break. How could you get like recertified? Because you guys are talking about like a certain amount of hours or something like that. So.
Yeah, I think this happens to people too. You know, I had a bunch of classmates who, like the gentleman in the video, he had to take the certification. Well, no, that was applying to school. He had to apply to school a bunch of times. I had a bunch of peers in my OTA who had to take the certification test multiple times, and some of them took a break in between. My little sister who was in the picture, she had babies, so she had a baby, she had to wait, and she took the test later. But then even as a professional, you know, there are people who let their license lapse. They may have to take that test again. It's one of those things where I think people definitely choose not to practice maybe if they want to start a family or if they're moving, or, you know, there's many other reasons why maybe someone would start in the field and then say, you know, I need to take a break. But that would be a great opportunity to not practice, but then keep up with those CEUs, because that way you can do 16 hours a year, right? Like go to a couple presentations and take a couple little quizzes online, and you can keep your certification but not actually be working, if that makes sense. So that's a really easy and great way to make sure that you would never have to take that 4-hour standardized test ever again, if that makes sense. Yeah, I guess that's just my little spiel on that, but yeah.
not to scare you, they prepare you for the test. We're getting ready for the test now, and people pass. We're gonna pass. So I mean, there's a lot of state exams with all healthcare careers, like nursing and the doctor. So just keep that out there too. So.
And I'll just say too, anytime that you get a certificate or a licensure and you plan to keep that certificate or licensure, it's a lot easier to re-up the certificate or the licensure versus having to go back and go through either the program or a class or going through CEUs again. Not that you can't do it, because you can do it, but it's a lot easier to keep that certificate or that licensure valid and not letting it go out of validity. But that's a great question, Christine, because a lot of different things can come up in people's lives too. Brigida, I saw that you unmuted. Did you have another question?
Yes. So do you know of any volunteering opportunities that we can have right now, maybe just like as high school students?
I think
So,
there's a
okay. Sorry, Aaron. Go ahead.
No worries. Yeah, since OTs work with so many different people, any volunteer experience that puts you in touch with people is what you can do. So working with old folks' homes, helping to support during craft hours is really great. You can also volunteer. I worked at my church with the special ed religious special religious education program. So I was just supporting the students in that. Wherever there's people with special needs, getting plugged in with those populations. And even not special needs, even if you're working with children, we help peds, we help children. So babysitting is that's not volunteered, you'll get paid for that one. Working the Special Olympics is a great opportunity. Right now in the age of COVID, I think it could be great to email activities coordinators at old folks' homes and maybe write letters to the students is something you could do maybe right now-ish. Anyone else have any other ideas?
I know there's a lot of virtual, I'm not too familiar with them, but I've heard things about people reading to kids online with disabilities. Like they've been doing that. Cool. I think that's cool. I saw that on they were doing some story time virtually. But yeah, like what you were saying, summer camps, that's where it's at. You already have all this free time, maybe not right during COVID, but the summer camps, like the multiple sclerosis camps, they put a lot of emphasis on those. If you want a career in rehab, they have a lot of volunteer opportunities over the summer. Kids with autism, if you be like a PCA, even if you're a PCA once a week, there's so many opportunities out there. We get so many emails. That's just for our cohort, but so many families are looking for people who can you just come in the evening and help them eat dinner? So even if you just get those experiences, those are great. I think that's all at the high school. Well, high school, maybe even leadership roles. I'm sorry, I haven't been in high school in a long time, but if you're the captain of a volleyball team or something that looks really good. You had some leadership experience. You're a leader of a club. All that stuff is great. So I'm not that old though, so I'm just saying too.
Yeah, I always just think of it as, I don't know what years you guys are in high school or anything, but as soon as I hit my freshman year, any activity that I did, I thought of it as a resume builder. So I was like, how am I gonna ready myself for a career in healthcare? How can I present to myself, to these colleges saying, yes, I've thought about the populations I'm going to be working with. Yes, I've done X, Y, and Z experience to show that I enjoy doing this. And then also maybe if you start them and you're like, hey, actually I don't enjoy this. Well, who cares? It's just a volunteer experience. You just tried it on, hung out with the oldies for a summer or an afternoon, and then, moved on to a different population if that resonates a little better. So just think about things that sound fun, things you haven't done before, and you can learn a lot about yourself and what settings you want to work in that way.
Also, I know we're short on time, Brady, I'm sorry, but also be open to what are the technical fields. I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but CNA, pharmacy tech. I'm telling you guys, there's so many people we have a pharmacy tech in our program right now. And even how she's able to connect that to OT. because she's like, oh, I know the side effects of these medications and how they're going to affect that person's ability to perform. So like you can tie anything into rehab services. So if you're in high school, or even if you are out of high school, or if you want to take you want to get a job and just take a break from school, those career opportunities look so good on a resume, and they have skills that would be so beneficial for like rehab services. Like again, like the CNA, pharmacy tech, what else is out there? Again, medical technician, all that stuff looks great. Even if you did it for like 3 years. I know that's more, like they're still educated, but just saying, if you want to get your foot in the door of just what it's like to work in the health field, those are cool too.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway from that question is get involved and be involved. So find anything that you can do. What else? Any last questions? All right. Well, thank you, Diamond, Naomi, Christy, and Aaron. So I really appreciate all 4 of you being able to be here. This was so great for everybody who was able to join us this afternoon. Students, I hope you learned something about the OT career field, a little bit about some of the other rehab fields as well. I hope you got a chance to write down those emails. If you didn't, I'll be posting that PowerPoint up on the Schoology site, so you can find that under this folder in the PT, OT live Q&A section. So you can go back and you can review that PowerPoint if you'd like to. But I'll kind of turn it over to Diamond for any last words, and we'll be done for the day.
Oh my God, you guys, this was so amazing. This was great. Thank you so much, Brady. Thank you to the students for letting us present. This was our first time presenting, believe it or not. I know, right? We were so amazing, but this was our first time. So any feedback, I know Brady does the surveys or like the questionnaire. Oh my God, please be honest, be honest. We want to tailor this to you guys and what you want to know, what information you want on these PowerPoints. Thank you for listening to us talk about ourselves for this long, because we can do it for a long time. So thank you, and I hope we inspired you and we got your minds thinking about at least rehab services, just at least, but OT, St. Kate's all day, we're super biased. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.